Now moving on to scenario one with Nick. It seems that Nick is under a lot of stress with him being an A-grade student and playing a sport. Nick may be feeling a lot of distress. This is an extreme form of anxiety, nervousness, apprehension, or worry. He's struggling to play the precise and accurate shots. This could be happening due to choking. And when his performance falls apart, this is the stress getting control over him in this scenario. The thing that's causing him to be stressed is the external stressor of him not being able to do something, and also the sports environment might be creating his arousal to be higher, causing him stress because he can't concentrate under the pressures and playing to his best ability, and also internal stressor as he is putting a lot of pressure on himself to be an A-grade student and also to get his tactics correct. As you can see in figure 1 here, the stress processed by McGrath 1970, he is having a negative perception, which is happening because he can't do the basic tactics in the game. This then leads to him being distressed, which is more than stress, therefore has a knock-on effect on his performance and reduces it, and his performance, quote, falls apart. Nick's stress is cognitive stress because he's making mistakes, which are therefore having an effect on how he is thinking and how he is mentally. He is upset with himself, which could lead to anger, and he's not able to concentrate on doing his tactics properly, and he also could be stressed as he may be feeling stressed behaviourally because he's feeling nauseous, and the idea of him being sick could make him stressed out and mess up. Right. Nick may have a lot of anxiety due to the fact he has been struggling and hasn't been playing as well as he normally does this season, and so because he knows this, he'll be anxious about whether he is going to play well in his match or not. He's showing that he has trait anxiety as it might be built into him to worry about his grades, and now worry about his performance. Overall, he worries and may overreact in a situation, which leads to high levels of arousals as this needing to be good seems to be engraved in his personality, as we can tell from him being an A-grade student. He also has state anxiety because of the place he is playing badminton, and each movement could give him a bit more anxiety every time, which will create an over-arousal in the body. This leads to the fact that Nick is also feeling nauseous, which is a somatic anxiety, as it's a physiological change within the body. Other examples of this could be increased heart rate. However, this is triggered by his cognitive anxiety, which could be he knows he's playing bad, so he's putting pressure on himself to do well. Also, the extra coaching could lead to stress, which will then lead to anxiety, as he has more pressure to be good. There are different factors that affect anxiety, such as personal factors or situational factors. For Nick, a personal factor could be that he works himself too hard, and this leads to him being over-aroused and messing up and not being able to apply tactics. And then for the situational factors, he may be uncertain that he is going to win, and so this creates more anxiety within him, and he messes up even more as he hasn't done very well this season, and him being unsure can lead to him messing up because he's putting more pressure on himself to win, as he doesn't know if it will be the outcome. Nick may also have competitive anxiety. Hackford and Schweinmacher 1989 described it as competitive state anxiety. Usually follows patterns of subjective feelings of tensions advocacy, combined with heightened arousal of the ANS. Not only do elite players get this, but so can normal players. Pre-competition, Nick may have competitive anxiety as he's feeling nauseous. This could be a sign that he has a fear of failing in the game, and this is what has kept happening to him the most recent times he had played badminton, because he doesn't know what the outcome will be, and so his anxiety is high. And also may have competitive anxiety during the competition, as the opposition may be really good and his arousal levels increase, so he so does his anxiety, and he loses control of how to play and forgets all of his tactics he has learned. Nick also shows symptoms of debilitative anxiety, meaning he has very negative expectations of how he's going to cope with this. When it says he feels nauseous, and also his goal attained, as we understand he has been struggling to play well all season. For Nick, he is over-aroused. This represents the inverted U theory, as you can see from my figure 2. On the x-axis is performance, and on the y-axis you can see arousal is on the x-axis and performance is on the y-axis. What we can see from this graph is that as arousal is increasing, performance is getting better until a point called optimal arousal, where performance is at its best. And if arousal continues past this point, then there is a decline in performance. And so the aim is to have arousal levels within the middle zone of the graph for optimal performance. However, this is hard, as fine tasks will need lower levels of arousal and gross tasks might need higher arousal. Also, if you're a novice, you may want higher levels of arousal. For an experienced player, higher levels of arousal. And lastly, if you're an extrovert, you may need high levels of arousal, and if you're an introvert, it might be different because you'll need low levels of arousal. So the inverted U theory may be better for different types of tasks, people, and personalities. For Nick, he might be over-aroused for a badminton player. This can lead to internal factors like his nausea, but also he isn't able to play the correct tactics in games because he's over-aroused. He might be over-aroused due to nerves or extra coaching, or the fact that he is an A-grade student. On the inverted U theory, this would be correct, as he has high levels of arousal, so his performance would be bad, which explains him struggling to play more precise and accurate shots. However, for different sports, different levels of arousal may be needed. For example, for a snooker player, they would be best at low levels of arousal, which goes against the idea of the inverted U theory. Right, moving on. Han in 1986 created an eyes-off model. This is an individual zone of optimal function. It's the different zones looking at when a player's best performance is depending on their level of arousal. And he did this by creating different zones. As you can see from my figure 3, as you go along horizontal in each zone, the amount of arousal increases. In figure 3, you can see there are 3 different athletes. Athlete A has low levels of arousal and low eyes-off. However, within this zone, this is where the athlete performs their best. For example, a snooker player. For the second athlete B, he has a moderate levels of arousal and a moderate eyes-off, and in the zone is where the athlete performs the best. For example, this is how Nick should be playing a badminton player. And for the third athlete, athlete C, he has high levels of arousal, and in this zone is where the athlete performs best. This would be big, gross movements such as jumping. For Nick, he is over-aroused, so being in the moderate eyes-off will be the best for him, because at the same time he doesn't need to be moving about and trying to win. And he doesn't need to be moving about, and he's trying to win, so he can't have low levels of arousal.